Yeah, baby. Yeah. The Mac is back. Back with another video. Hello, the initiated. My name is Marcus Jonikla, and today we're checking out Decadence by AVA Music Group. Cool name. This is a company that's pretty new to me. I think I first saw them probably on an Instagram ad or something akin to that. Certainly have the visual side, the marketing side, the branding side in a pretty good shape. And I thought, yeah, looked cool, sounded cool. And then maybe a couple of days ago, can't recall, I saw Blake Robinson, the composer, say good things about Decadence. And, you know, if he says something good about something, there's probably something to it. So that kind of put this more in my radar. And I ended up following AVA Music Group on Instagram, and they followed back. And they said they actually watch my videos. So that was really cool. So we started chatting, and long story short, now Decadence is here in front of me. Might as well touch on transparency at this point. Seems like a good segue. Yes, AVA Music Group did send me this copy. So first of all, thank you to them for doing so. That being said, all opinions are my own, both in good and bad. I haven't been asked to say anything one way or the other, nor would I ever do that. In terms of what decadence means, we might as well touch on the essence or the soul of this, because I assume it's named this for a reason. We shall look into the dictionary, and the definition is moral or cultural decline, as characterized by excessive indulgence in pleasure or luxury. So that's what it's based on. Apparently, don't know how much of that comes to life as we begin to play this, but you know, that's what it's based on. So let's take ourselves to the website. And again, the view for you from my browser is pretty not great to view, I presume. That's due to my very wide screen. So I'll try and make some adjustments in the future. But yeah, probably looks better if you open it up yourself. So they have a bunch of different stuff. Apparently virtual instruments, sound effects, and then they also have some free stuff here. We are also going to have a look at Eminence later on. This is the other library they sent over. But just having like a brief overview of this, getting an idea of where these are priced at. So most of this stuff is either sub 50 euros or sort of sub 100. So that's kind of the ballpark we seem to be dealing with here. I know this Decadence is now on sale because it's a new thing, but also I saw on the Eminence page that they talk about a spring sale, but I don't see any other visuals indicating that elsewhere. So I don't know how, yeah, apparently, I mean, this seems to be Prism, for example, just priced normally, but something to look at. I like to look at the prices to get an idea of obviously the offering, because how appealing a library is obviously in relation to the price. You know, if you have something that is absolutely fantastic but costs you 10k, then you're going to look at that differently compared to if it costs 1,000 or 100. So yeah, Decadence, which we're going to look at today, full price seems to be, for me, this shows euros, and this is probably like a Shopify conversion rate. So that's why the prices are a bit weird. This is full price for me in euros seems to be 144 euros and 67 cents. And on sale, and this is the introductory sale, I believe, is 102 euros and 30 cents. And this does include tax. So if you can deduct that, then that's what you're looking at. So, okay, there are plenty of full price for this, plenty of other offerings also out there too. So interested in seeing how this compares to that. What is Decadence? Well, it's titled or subtitled Trailer Toms. So they call this a deeply sampled collection of curated cinematic drums, recorded and produced by industry-leading sound designer Karel Psota. Karel Psota. That's the official pronunciation. No, I don't know if I butchered that, but I'm sorry if I did, and that's my best shot at it. So based on this description, not sure if it is only toms, because it says curated cinematic drums. That could mean only toms, but who knows? We have to get our hands dirty first to find out. This does work with free contact player, so you don't need full version, and is fully NKS compatible. Then they have a bunch of demo tracks, which we're not obviously going to play. They call this cinematic percussion redefined. Reimagined for the modern era. Decadence blends the grandeur of cinematic drums with the punch and precision of pop and trailer music. All right, so that's probably like genre-wise what we're looking at. Every sound is meticulously processed to be the most satisfying possible without overwhelming your mix. Yeah, so there seems to be like an emphasis on kind of out-of-the-box, immediate, kind of ready-to-go sounds. So interested in seeing how much that comes to how much of that I come to agree with. Deeply sampled, 10 velocity layers, 9 round robins, all right. And customizable sounds with advanced effects, guided user interface, including step sequencer and rearrangeable modules. You can also save your own effect tracks or import the ones we made to figure out the magic sauce. And then you have over 150 inspirational starter rhythms. Cool. So you know me, I'm probably going to just play this with my fingers as far as the pre-rhythms are going to go. All right, so what's inside? So seems like we go beyond toms. This kind of, when they title it Trailer Toms, I understand why they want to do that. They want to give you a clear, concise idea of what this is, and it's easier to sell and market, etc. And there's nothing wrong with that, if that's what you expect, and then you come to find that, okay, there's more stuff in here, which, for example, was the case with the Strezov Extreme Toms as well. Certainly from an expectation management standpoint, that's a positive, because you're going to expect only toms, but you're going to get a lot more. Could they name it something else to be more descriptive? Maybe. But, again, I understand they want to sell these libraries and they want to make it kind of easy for you to understand what it's about. And if this is about primarily trailer cinematic toms, then that's probably what it wants to deliver the most. And this other stuff is kind of extra. So, but just, something to contemplate on. So they've got toms, which they call three-way, inspired by Mad Max, and two-way. I will confess I don't know how that's pronounced. Great weight, size, and glue. Cuts great in mixes when used as fills. All right. Then you got Tom's Vintage, smaller and precise sound. Great to use before a huge hit. Okay, so that's interesting. These are sort of more like engineered components. And I actually like that they give these examples, because that can be super helpful for somebody. Like if you're wondering where am I going to put these things, at the very least, this is a good starting point and will probably be quite useful for a bunch of people. Tom's Magnum. Oh yeah. A mix of stomps and tom ensembles to get a very rich texture. They purposefully sound less punchy to allow the follow-up sounds to cut. Yeah. Okay, so this is cool. This kind of reveals how, sort of sound engineering minded they think about these. And this is actually exceptional in the sense that they give you these kind of like cues into where you might want to be using these. Obviously, it's music, so nothing's set in stone, but this is really cool. I do like this approach. War Drum Defeat. Deep and textural percussion inspired by Zimmer with great transient definition. Layers nicely with darbuka. War Drum Aversion. Smeared and softer perk ensemble sound. They have a white noise profile, very useful for trailers. Darbuka. Lepilat. I don't know how that's actually said, but the perfect exotic cinematic sound element. Mixed halfway between Dune 2 and Skrillex. Nice. Yeah, I know I'd said this like 3 times already, but I really do appreciate these descriptions because they're just useful. Then you have booms, you have taps and tops, kicks, snare, claps and sticks, cymbals. I'm not going to read all of that because that's probably boring for you. And then you get words from industry-leading trailer composers. There we have our Blake Robinson, which I saw. So he says, Carell's finally cracked the code on perfect trailer toms, and now we get to win. No more sample layering. This library delivers mix-ready punches. A single hit. Cool. Then you have Eduard Brennesen. Then you have Joshua Crispin, Brian Clearside, Alex Mokala, and Brandon Williams. So yeah, praises from people. Then you got some customer testimonials. Cool. I think that is it in terms of getting to know this from that standpoint. Let me go ahead and close Chrome. So what is the agenda today? As always, I just want to play as much of this to you as possible. Just give you an idea of what this sounds like out of the box and go through as many, I don't know if presets is going to be the right word for a library like this because it's sort of laid out differently, but play as much of it as possible. When you open this in your side pane, hopefully you don't have too much of that, you get 3 folders here. You got single patch, you got master patch, and then you have extra. I thought we would start with master patch, and we have organic opened up here, and then you also have punchy and drowned. So my reasoning here is that the master is going to probably give you the kind of most comprehensive idea of this sound, and then we can go into the singles, and then we can do the extras if we have time. In terms of what you'll be hearing today, it's only Decadence in action. I don't add any effects, no EQ, no compression, no reverb, nothing. It's all Decadence. And I only have a limiter on my master bus to make the level more decent for this video so that it's actually listenable and more enjoyable and consistent with my voice as well. The limiter is set to be as transparent as I can possibly make it. I'll basically just push a bit of gain for you to make the levels decent. This being a percussion library, some of those peaks will be caught by the limiter, but again, it's set to be as transparent as possible. If I hear any squashing or anything significant like that, I will pull back from that. But I feel like it's something I have to say since those transient peaks have more energy than the main body of the sound. So some of those might be caught, but I will certainly keep things as I will keep that transient, peak catching as inaudible as possible. is that everything? And yeah, if you do hear distortion, it's probably the limiter, and if it's not, I'll let you know. I'll probably let you know either way. Let me get some water, because your boy is thirsty as heck. I don't actually know why. Maybe I should go to the doctor. There we go. So yeah, looking at the interface real quick, super minimal, very simple, very clear, clean, concise. I like this approach. In the left top corner, you have this box for mod wheel. So here you can choose what the mod wheel does. So you can assign it to low pass, high pass, or the level. That's a really good, simple control to have there. Obviously, you can do this in other ways, you know, by assigning stuff, but it's nice to have it there out of the box. In terms of what this big knob here does, everybody loves big knobs. So as with most big knobs, when you turn it, it turns red or orange. You should probably see a doctor for that. And it gets filled with this yellow goo. I swear these are not intentional words, but that's what happens. So I imagine this is probably some kind of a, you know, the obvious reference that comes to mind is like a Heaviosity style punish. But obviously, I mean, many companies have done a similar thing. So this probably adds some kind of compression, some kind of saturation. We'll see. It's there, looks nice, behaves nicely. Then you have a slider for compression, which seems to be a percentage thingy. So that's probably a mix control for your compression. And you have an attack and hold control for that. So fair enough. Then you have the sequencer thingy-majingy in the middle, and then filter dynamics. You have release and cut for those. All right. Then you have separate page for effects. Again, super clean, clear, concise. Filter, compression, EQ, reverb, stereo, delay. Then for color, you got flanger, sub, cabinet, exciter, chorus, phaser. Okay, interesting. Cool stuff. Very clear. Then for the groove window, you got your MIDI grooves in here. And again, love that they did the MIDI path and not loops, because that lets you, you know, control things better. But yeah, the groove is also, I mean, you have this sequencer here. So cool. So we're looking at master organic. So I'm just going to start playing around here, and we're going to get a level going here first. Do get a bit of limiter clipping there with these big sub sounds. Yeah, that's the limiter kind of catching the edge. Yeah, with the super low sounds, when it goes over, it does distort the limiter. So bear with me as I try and hit a level that's somewhat decent. Cool. So that's a very, very kind of a tame sub, which is a good thing, because oftentimes so many subs have a bunch of information there that you're going to have to process or cut out somehow, because it's just going to take up too much space. So looking at my scope here, this is very much like most of the information is below 50 hertz, and then you got from 50 to about maybe 200, kind of like the mid, and then kind of the mid portion of the sound, and then from 200 to 1K, you have this sort of a top end, and it kind of sweeps down into the low end from there. So that's very nicely done. Because when you want the sub, you just want to have the weight there. So one thing that I'm yearning here is when I press a key, I would like to know what drum I'm playing. Obviously the sound matters the most, that's for sure, we all know that, but it would be a nice way of locating. And also, first of all, seeing what the source is, because even if you're happy with the sound, it's nice to learn what the source is. And obviously these were all listed on the website, but it would be nice to have it here. As far as I can tell, it's not here. But yeah, would be cool to see what you're playing. Okay, moving on to like lower toms. Okay, so one of the things I'm immediately wanting is to have double keys for, even if I'm playing the same sample, would be nice to have two keys to do that. So I could actually, because if you have like a slower responding key bed, like I do, this is a Dope PK88, great keyboard, but it's obviously very weighted, so the release times are going to be slower. So if I'm playing something fast on one key, it's impossible for the key to return fast enough for me to play those like faster notes. So this would be, obviously there are a number of ways I can map this out in Kontakt myself, but just having it out of the box would be really nice. Just having two keys for each sample, so I could, you know, play them one next to another. Like for example, here we have a different sample here. This seems like a kick. That's really, really good. Yeah, super nice. You can definitely hear the kind of the pop, or rather the, you know, trailerish big sound influence, specifically in the reverb, because it is quite reverberant. It is very, I mean, it's very controlled, not excessive. These aren't drowning in reverb, but it has that prominent reverb tail. And in that style that it's done, you can definitely hear that this, you know, is going for that type of a sound. We got a bit of limiter clipping there because I hit the wrong note. But yeah, these are super nice. I'm gonna, when I'm playing stuff, I can't do a lot of same note repetitive stuff due to the mapping. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of these deep toms that sort of break to the side. They have that top crispy, kind of flammy top end. I dare push that limiter a bit more, since we have a more controlled selection of sounds. This is really interesting stuff to look at on the scope, because for this kick, for example, you can see that it's like very custom made, very custom tuned to 50 hertz. Then you have a slight dip to 40, and by about 30 hertz you have nothing there. So it's well, maybe just a tad bit, but you know, it kind of, they've very clearly cut the very low end. So this is the idea I get from these, is that these are very meticulously crafted, very kind of an engineering what's the word, precise work behind these. And I did actually catch a clip where probably somebody from AVA Music Group was talking about like having a big tom sound, and that oftentimes when you want like a big boomy low, you're actually playing quieter, and then you mic actually usually pretty close, and depending, when you find the right angle for the mic where the drum is obviously resonating beautifully with the space, but then also in relation to the mic, then you get like huge boomy low ends. Because you'd think if you want a big low end, you just hit the living shit out of that that drum, but that isn't the case. So I mean, that clip alone shows me, or tells me, that they, you know, have, not that that's any kind of a super big secret, but they have you know, understanding of, like a deeper engineering understanding of how many things in this field work. And yeah, the impression I get is that these are very, you know, precisely engineered. So I'm not sure if these are the same sound. They sound maybe a bit like there's a slight pitch change. Let's pull this back a bit and I'll try and play them together. Yeah, the dynamic range is pretty good. It's actually really good. Yeah, really good. Even in some cases, I'd probably lessen it, because you get those, when I play really hard, we get that extra, you know, dB and a half of volume. So in some cases, I'd probably lessen it. I'd do that in the MIDI editor by simply clipping the ones that go to beyond, but these have excellent dynamic range. Yeah, that's really cool. When you play really quiet, you're basically only hearing the stick hitting the skin, just like it's supposed to be. Sounds to me a bit like again, here we have a lot of space. A lot of that space captured. They're like some of those resonant build-ups there in the kind of the mids, and then this kind of like almost saturated sound on the top end. Could also be like a compression type of thing. That gets a bit too much to my taste. Don't get me wrong, it sounds really, really good, but it has that particular sound. And this being, if this is the organic, then it's probably as we go deeper into the more processed stuff, that's probably not going to be my cup of tea. I tend to like a big impactful sound, but keep the organicness. I don't like to compress or saturate my percussion too much, but this does have like a nice natural a gritty sound to it, the drum itself. But it's just something to keep in mind, because like as we go deeper into there, it might be that it's not the more processed ones are not to my liking, but we'll have to see how that pans out. So what I'm trying to do here is tell if the open hi-hat closes when I play one of these other more closed hi-hats. If I do a super fast one, it seems like it doesn't. But if I do like a slower one, it seems like it does. So I'm guessing it doesn't, but it's just sort of like if I'm slower, it sounds like it. Again, the reverb on these, like we don't have any effects from the engine, so this is in the sample itself. So it is, you know, kind of a big room. Again, in a trailer context, in a certain sound, that's going to be absolutely fine. Like it's not, nothing about it is bad. It's just a certain sound. So here I can definitely hear some kind of a there's like a saturation distortion at the end of it. Okay, so what I find a bit confusing here is when I'm looking at the effects, we have control for saturation, tilt, and level separately. But then you also have, okay, so yeah, you can basically just turn on these different effects. No, that's not right. So you can click on them. Right, okay, yeah. So let me correct that. When you're actually in a module, it gives you controls for that. Makes sense. I am a silly goose. But we don't have the actual exciter on. So I'm just trying to see how much of this is in the sample versus the engine, but it doesn't seem like we actually have anything on here. This has like very audible compression, saturation at the end of it. And I say that because compression can also induce that saturation. So these are a bit too reverberant and kind of blurry to my taste. They have great sound if you're going for like that absolutely massive, like in the right place, they sound really big. I don't tend to go for that type of a sound, but if that's what you want, then that's great. But yeah, even these have a fair bit of that treatment on them. Same for this one as well. I mean, we still have about 6 dB of space to go. And we are not even pushing this knob. Let us push this knob. Okay, yeah, so it's... just to demonstrate what it does on its full effect. Yeah, so seems like mainly compression. Oh, that's a really nice one. Love that sound. Really liking that. I also like that it kind of randomizes there between the samples. Yeah, that's a nice one. So they definitely have more reverb in the samples than I would typically go for. But again, this is very contextual. It really, really depends on the type of sound you're going for and them, you know, what they state as their target. It definitely very much aligns with that. Okay, so seems like when you go for these punchy and drowned sounds, I get the impression from the interface here that the difference is the processing in the engine. So there doesn't seem to be any difference in the samples themselves. Because as you go in here, you see some pre-made mix decisions. So I very much prefer this path. This is really good because it makes it, well, first of all, very clear and easy to see what's being done. Obviously, the weakest argument for this approach is the effects that are here in play in the Kontakt engine. Not that they can be good, because oftentimes they are. They can be fantastic. But yeah, but again, if you use third-party stuff for that anyway, then it doesn't make much difference for you. So, so from that perspective, a great addition. Yeah, seems like that is the difference. So organic is just the kind of most untreated version, which is the one I'd probably be using. But yeah, let's play a bit of these punchy ones. I'll probably drop the limiter volume output here a bit. But these actually sound really good so far. So let's play. Yeah, these toms, they have too much of that kind of compression, blurry, saturation edge for me to most of the time use these. Again, if you're doing that kind of, I know I'm repeating myself, but I want to be fair, you know, for the devs. And this is for like, if you're doing those like big, nothing but, you know, tom hits, then these can be really good. And again, it's a matter of preference and taste if you want to go for that sound. So I really like, these actually become a lot more controlled in terms of dynamics when you take the punchy sounds. No surprise there, obviously, because peak levels are going to be controlled. There's more compression, more of everything. So this kind of, again, shows the maturity and the skill that they have on this engineering front, that this actually might be like a better approach for many people to go with these pre-mixed sounds, because you obviously get to leverage their skill and their craft in that. And I think in many cases I actually do prefer these. And also the reverberation also becomes a bit sort of more controlled here. Horrible playing there. Again, there the reverberation through the effects gets a bit accentuated, so but it works really well to my taste here with some of the lower stuff. Again, this is really, really good. Trying to find a good pair. For this tom. I wish there were 2 keys for each, so I could play each individual. Maybe there are in the non-master patches, but yeah. Let's move on to the drowned ones. So these are probably pretty extreme. Yeah, so they're very pushed, and also seems like there's a low pass filter on here. Yep, literally making them kind of drowned. You know, sort of, what's the word? Pushed underneath. That's not the word I'm looking for, but that's what we have. All right, let's go into single patches. I'm very interested in seeing how these turn out. So these probably might be the way these kind of single patches are usually the way I prefer to you know, do things. So interested in seeing how these kind of differ overall. So if I remember correctly, these ones were the Mad Max style things. Not that that really helps me much, because I haven't seen a single Mad Max movie. That's just me being honest. So sorry about that. Okay, we're gonna have to pull back the level here. So yeah, basically you get a very pitched selection of these drums, and that's super useful because you can actually tune them to your track, which I do recommend doing. Again, these are the ones that when you play this, you can hear some of the pressurization of the reverberation. Pressurization of the reverberation happening there. So the compression is kind of squeezing on top of it, and then it kind of saturates the edge. That, to me, not a particularly typically a sound that I would go for. But again, if that's your kind of thing, then this does that. Let's pull back on the level here again. And again, that kind of top distortion, that's not from the limiter, that's actually here in the samples. And again, that's not like a good or a bad thing, it's a very stylistic type of a decision to make. All right, next up, Tom's Vintage. Very nicely tuned. They resonate beautifully. Like that resonance on the low tom there is really, really nice. And it pairs with the top as well. And the resonance on this top one as well, really good. I like this approach because it's a very fast way of tuning the toms to your track. You don't have to, be in contact or even like a tuning knob on the instrument itself. This way I can just play and find the right pitch for my track. And this is probably my preferred way of doing this kind of an approach. Yeah, beautiful resonance. And again, this is super nicely tuned. Again, this one has a focus at 80 hertz, like a very clear fundamental. Then you got a bit of sub underneath that, and then you have again a very clear dip in between, and then kind of 150 center for that kind of main body, and then all the way up to 8K about you get that top end. So those are really nicely pushed, or should I say tuned is probably the word I'm looking for. This one's called Magnum. No, that wasn't good enough. Let me try and get this right. Magnum. Okay, so these ones are the kind of more squashed ones. I will say on this one, for example, the distortion at the top end is far more audible in these lower ones. And again, that could be a sound you want to go for. For these top ones, it's far less so distorting. Well, maybe not. Maybe I just played when you play quieter, it's far less noticeable. But then the problem, if you want a higher dynamic, then you're going to get that distortion as well. will say that sound works really nicely. For the top end of these, that's very nice. And that gives you an actually really, really balanced and impactful sound. For these top toms, I feel like that slight crunch at the top works really nicely and it doesn't get intrusive. And by the way, tremendous dynamics there. Let's pull back the limiter a bit here. There's a lot of dynamics here. Yeah, for these top toms, that sits in a very nice, like, it's clearly has that crispy pushed edge. In the lower ones, it gets a bit too audible, the distortion there. But that's a very nice place. War drum, defeat. Again, this is tuned super nicely. Ooh. Yeah, again, pretty hard to play without a second key for me here, but these are super, super solid. War drum version. Okay, so that's a super good sound. Super well put together. Yeah, now I can see why where the name comes from. These are just perfectly done for that kind of a sound. Yeah, that's a 10 out of 10 for that sound. Really, really nicely tuned. This one is a kick disrupt. Yeah, I really like this tuning approach. I know I'm repeating myself, but that's a really, really key takeaway, I would say. I know it can kind of seem weird and redundant and insensible. Is that even a word? I don't know. But once you really work with a bunch of music, and especially with drums, you really, when you begin to tune them to your track, it will make the world. It will make a world of a difference. So, really important feature here. Again, these are a bit too much reverb, a bit too much kind of top rattle there to my taste. But again, if that's your sound, it's great. actually take that back. I'll probably use that more than I intuitively thought. So here you get a kind of a more subby, boomy. Yeah, that's actually pretty nicely done. This one is called Kick Monsoon. Quite impressive how they've done that knock element of it, but still, I mean, many of these sounds go for that kind of big trailer, spacious, reverberant sound. So they have that size, but this one, even when I play very close consecutive notes, it very clearly gives that knock. Yeah, I know for demo purposes, when you kind of float around with percussive stuff in the pitch, it can be like sound weird and not very impressive. But believe me, like once you begin to tune those drums to your track, it's such an important thing. And I really appreciate this key approach rather than having to tune it from an interface manually. Again, I can't really demonstrate same note repetition very well here. And with a note like this, because it has that flam component, you're really not supposed to be, it's not really intended to be doing that anyway, but clap. Again, very reverberant, so not meant to be in your face. Again, a lot of reverb on here. I would probably want to undo that in many cases. Okay, so we got reverb on here, so that helps for sure. But still, there's quite a bit of that. So still, you know, you're gonna have to want that sound. Frame taps. I actually really like how these are very puffy, warm, and sort of understated in a way. But very, you know, nice and puffy. Like that. Again, reverb. There's quite a bit of that, as far as I can tell. Nothing on here on the effects. So that's going to have to fit your soundscape. Frame top. super snappy. Again, very clear and focused kind of body for the hit and the transient. Again, on the reverb, very noticeable. So that's going to have to, you're going to have to deal with that or, you know, fit your sound. Beautiful samples. I mean, this beautiful sort of transient droplets, very crisp. This rings beautifully, nice imaging. Again, on the effects, you have a bit of reverb, so that's a bit less. On this sound source, I mean, again, don't get me wrong, the reverb is beautifully paired with the sound, but if you want it less, you're going to have to do that via whatever means you have to. But that being said, this pairs really nicely with the sound. So in a like, certainly in a like an orchestral mix, I would be perfectly fine with this because it pairs so nicely. That's going to just blend super well in a mix. And again, that reverberation kind of sings with that instrument beautifully. And there's no excessive reverb top end. It kind of like, it's a nice round top end. So I would just drop those in the mix and it would be done. Cymbals Garage. I really like that one. It's very like raspy and broken. And again, here, the space pairs super nicely with these cymbals. So in most cases, I wouldn't, maybe a bit of that on the hi-hat, I would take off. Okay, so we don't have any reverb here on the effects. So that's in the samples. But again, for like a big cinematic sound, that's what a lot of people want. I really like this. I wonder, it's kind of like a China, but not quite as wild. Maybe some kind of a China type of cymbal. Let's pull back on the level. So these ones are boom, roomy. Nice. Boom, deep sub. Back clipping was the limiter. That was the limiter. Yeah, so super nicely tuned. Again, no excessive information there. That's just going to be sitting in a very nice place. Cool, so that was all the single patches. In extra, we have Tom's Racer, Tom's Korea, and then War Drum Defective. So let's play these three. very puffy, very meaty sound. I can understand the kind of why it's in the extra, because they have this has like a bit of a maybe raw edge, but I actually enjoy that. These could be really good when you're adding some like body and some like meat into your toms. Let's say you have a great sound, but it's not quite getting the weight. You could add this in. You get a lot of body there and a nice like crispy top end as well. So I think that's a fantastic layering tool at the very least. I mean, obviously on its own even the sound is really good, but okay, these ones are Korea. I really like these. They have like that crispy, broken, slightly like raspy top end. Good resonant body. Again, maybe I could do with a bit less of that space in there. I think these are really, really, really good. I wonder why they're in the extras. Not that that's necessarily a statement of quality, but maybe they just didn't fit the palette in the same way in their mind. Really good. You get that kind of dispersed transient, but it's slightly wet as well. These are really interesting because they have that nice, that top end that I talked about, those transients, but these are super meaty in the body. You get that kind of like here, 80 hertz fundamental seems like, and a good brunt of like that body. These might be like some of the best, you know, like layering type of sounds. Again, it depends on what they're with. I mean, these could easily hold their own just on their own as well, but you know, maybe something a bit sort of closer would kind of round it out. Depends again on the sound you want to go for, but yeah, I think that's fantastic for stuff like that. Get like tension, motion going, and then you get those bigger hits. This has a really nice meaty like body, and also you get that bit of resonance there, which gives a really full sound. It does cut out for some reason a bit too early. There, like you. But yeah, it seems like it's in the sample. Not that this filter thing does anything to that, but I just wanted to test. Yeah, they cut out a bit too early. yeah, that can sound colossal in the right place. So really, really, really good. Super well done. Okay, I think we went through all of this. Let's keep that side pane open. I'm actually gonna go ahead and here sort of adjust this window so I can go through the summary here of what I think. Easier to remember stuff when you actually go through them. So first things first, really great sound. The main thing here that doesn't necessarily cater to my specific taste is, again, depending on the sound, the amount of the space in the sample, the amount of reverberation in the actual source samples, even with the organic ones where the engine doesn't add any effects. In some cases, it's a bit too excessive to my taste. That being said, in many styles, that is exactly what a lot of people want. And especially for the stated style that they state, trailer type of things, and maybe, for that sort of a more pop end of cinematic or trailer music, that's precisely the kind of sound that you might want to have. So they nailed that. But whether it's for you or not, it obviously comes down to you as the individual in question. So that's really my main kind of subjective personal thing that is kind of like a hit or miss. That being said, it really depends on the sound. Like for some of the sounds, it's spot on, the kind of sound that I would also go for, even if I'm not the biggest fan of the amount of space in some other samples. But again, it depends. Also, the other negative, again, to my taste, is that some of those samples, some of those toms specifically, and again, this is very dependent on the sample or the sound in question, have a bit too much, sounds to me like compression kind of chewing down upon them, which creates this kind of, obviously, compression, but also that kind of distorted top end, which again, in many cases, is a stylistic choice, and it's exactly the type of sound that many people want. I just don't happen to use that, but just to be clear where I stand, so that this is not like there's a big difference between subjective calls versus something that's just like not good from any angle. So these are very much like subjective things. Good things, like I said, the engineering in many spots, in many cases, is really, really well done. They clearly have like a clear vision for what they're doing. They're being meticulous and very specific in how they're tuning those resonances and those frequencies. And in many cases, they are just absolutely perfect. So it just depends on the sound. What I love is the tuning approach that they have here. Okay, when you open a single patch, that you get this zone for that instrument, and then obviously it goes in pitches. So this way you can actually tune your drums for your track. And this kind of shows that these people have been through this same issue themselves, that they want to tune their drums, but it's kind of tedious to either go into Contact or do multiple Contact instances so you can tune drums, or tuning them in the kind of the interface engine itself. So this kind of tells me that they are aware of what professional composers, or well, you don't have to be a professional, but these are the kind of things that professionals tend to yearn for and want. So that's absolutely fantastic. Playability, really good. No issues there. Dynamic range, fantastic. There's probably a tad bit more of it than what most people need, which is a good issue to have, because then you can just pull back from that. But that's fantastic, and those dynamics map to the playability really, really well. What I would wish for is like an additional double key. You don't even have to have like 2 keys for the same sample right next to one another. You could also have like a doubling key somewhere else. A lot of companies do this where there's like a yellow key or whatever colored key, usually tends to be yellow, to the side, which doubles the note that you previously played. So then people like myself who like to play things on the keyboard here ourselves can do that without having to have 2 fingers on the same key. And with certain keyboards, they just don't return fast enough for me to play really, really fast stuff. Like it's just not going to happen. So that would be a fantastic addition as well. Anything else I want to touch on there? Yeah, again, like when the sounds hit, when they are really good, they are just spot on. They're perfect. In terms of me, myself, personally, subjectively, can I think of any other words to add there? Whether I like it or not just depends specifically on the sound. Like I think the Magnum top end was spot on. War drums, fantastic. We had that one kick somewhere which was like just perfectly tuned. Snare big boy was like a flammy type of thing, so definitely having more like single note snare stuff would be nice. Again, they state this as a tom library, so I'm not exactly expecting snares to be in there, but would be a nice addition. The Darbuka sounded really great. Again, a bit heavy on the reverb for my taste, but really fantastic sound. Really liking pretty much anything like high frequency stuff here, sticks, cymbals, really, really nicely done. Again, on, for example, the Hirata there, or Hirata. Yeah, just like a perfect amount for that. It's going to sit really nicely in the mix. And again, for example, in the subs, one of those was like so specifically nicely tuned. So I really appreciate the engineering and the precision that has gone in here. It's really clearly done by people who know like the real needs of composers. And also, again, I just want to emphasize the engineering efforts here, because you can hear that they are very precisely done when they work perfectly to my taste. Master patch wise, I was actually thinking I just want to go with the organic ones, because more processed type of things tend to be a bit too much to my taste. But the Punchy one was actually in many cases so well, and this is again a statement to the engineering efforts that are in this library. They were actually better sounding, better tuned than the organic ones, which would make sense if they are well done. But I was actually surprised by that, because they usually tend to be too much for me, but really good, super solid, in many cases masterfully tuned. So really happy about that. Probably the Punchy set is going to be something I want to look at often. And these extras were actually really fantastic, maybe among some of my favorites. I can see why like some of the aspects are maybe not as controlled, or controlled, I'd go with that. But these are going to be super, super good when it comes to, well, just being on their own. I would probably need to do a bit of EQ, a bit of compression, but that's about it. These have like super serious meat and body to them, and the top end is absolutely fantastic as well. Again, that's one of the telling signs that somebody knows what they're doing, when the top end of the percussion doesn't get excessive, doesn't get brittle or harsh. It's just like nicely, sort of crunching at you, but doesn't get intrusive or tiring to the ear. And I know that on my system, if it sounds like that, it's going to sound super good everywhere else. So that's a lot of the transient top detail and how it's paired with the body of these instruments is super, super well done. And again, when you find that right tuning for your drum, for the low end part, and again, if you have like a scope and you look at how these are sculpted, like these are crafted, very precisely crafted sounds. It's quite impressive how they've done that. Cool, nice piece of kit. That does it. Like, again, you probably want to look at this from the lens of what they state it as. It definitely, if you're doing like epic cinematic orchestral music, great for that kind of stuff. If you're doing trailers, fantastic for that kind of stuff, in that kind of traditional sense. And also I would say that this works really nicely as kind of like a percussive toolkit that you can add with another library as well, and this can deliver some of those core fundamental basics really, really well. Like if you need that low sub, or if you need that kick, or if you need that one tom drum to kind of bring the core of your percussive section to a certain place, then you can do that. And with other more specific or stranger or esoteric or whatever stuff, you can then build around this, and this can work great as like it gives you the core of like a big hitting percussive sound. It's not like super diverse in terms of all the stuff you're getting here. Like it's pretty and I say this in a good way, like meat and potatoes of a lot of the big epic cinematic percussion stuff that you hear. And again, that's like praise. That's not like a like a criticism in my eyes. This can be great to plug in like those basic needs, and then you can build around it with stuff that is perhaps less sort of like polished or refined or going for this kind of big hard hitting sound. So that's also something worth considering. Also, some of these sounds, as I said, they're perfect. Like they're perfectly tuned for that one sound. These can be great mixing reference points. Like if you're a bit lost in how you want to be tuning or setting your mix, once you find a perfect sound, then that's going to be like a key reference point for you. Like I know this tom sounds fantastic on every single system that I play it on when I do it with this library. So then I can have that as a point of reference and build all of my other instrumentation and tune everything else, assemble everything else around that key point. And especially in your mix process, that can be a super important reference to have at your disposal. This is really like one of the key hidden values of fantastic sample libraries. You're not only getting the fantastic sounds, but you're getting a fantastic reference point from a mixing standpoint. You know, okay, this is perfect, this sound. So I just need to kind of gravitate and assemble everything around that to achieve the mix balance that I'm looking for. Cool. I think that's it for today. If you have this back at your studio or at home, let me know what you think, and certainly let me know what you think of this video. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Finished.